Everyone wants what's on the other side, the success, the purpose, the blessing, but very few are willing to surrender who they were to become who God is calling them to be. This is RE-IGKNIGHT. Stories forged through fire, men and women rebuilt through obedience, and the truth about what it actually costs to become. Because purpose is not found in comfort, it is forged in refinement. And on the other side of surrender is the life God intended all along. Welcome back to RE-IGKNIGHT. It's been quite a few weeks since I've had a conversation, and I'm really excited for this one. So for those of you who are able to join us today, or those of you who will watch the recap later on, thank you so much for joining. And please interact, ask questions. This is an interactive conversation, so I just want to make sure that I throw that out there. So today I have Dr. Chris Coy. You are the head of school at Hyde, is it called Hyde Christian?
Hyde Park.
What is it? Hyde Park. Okay, so Christian school. You're the head of school, and you've had a very long story. You actually started teaching 20 years ago there, and now you are the head, which is pretty incredible. You have had a long walk with Christ. You have an amazing, beautiful family. And so I want to get into all of that. But first, I want to ask you, I recently listened to a sermon that you gave a couple weeks ago. You're in the process of becoming an ordained pastor, right? So I don't know how that all works, but that's really exciting. But you gave a message and it was amazing. And in that message, you said, back when you first started teaching, you had such imposter syndrome. You thought to yourself, like, gosh, like, how am I here? Like, and I'm wondering, do you ever have that now, since you've come so far and now you're the head of school?
Yes, I do. There's only so many suit and ties that can mask how you're really feeling inside. But first of all, Jennifer, thanks for having me on your show. It's a privilege to be here, so thank you. I suffer from imposter syndrome now. I certainly did then. For some reason, I was able to have certain titles younger than normal. I specifically remember being a teacher and then becoming an assistant principal. And I was an AP that was supposed to supervise some teachers. And one of the teachers I was supervising had been teaching for literally longer than I was alive. And so you have to really, on the fly, be like, okay, am I going to just put the pencil down and just listen to what they have to say, even though
right,
I'm above? And so early on, I had that experience, and it's humbling. And early on, I just decided to really not fake it and just be like, you know what, I'm just here to serve. I didn't even ask to be in this position. I wasn't asked to be a teacher. Like, God had a plan for me that I didn't really understand. So it's almost comical for people that really know me to be like, wait, you're the head of school. Wait, you're the principal. Wait, you're the assistant principal. Wait, you're a teacher. Wait, you're a coach. I mean, every position, my buddies have given me a hard time, which is fair.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's a long journey, and here we are.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I like how you say that it's comical, because I think God is pretty comical sometimes. In a lot of things that he does and orchestrates, and even the way Jesus was, I think that's pretty comical sometimes too.
Yeah.
There's a sense of humor there. But, okay, so you didn't, I guess, based on what you said, you didn't set out to become a teacher. Definitely, you didn't set out to become the head of the school. So how does this happen? Tell me about your story. Tell me how your family plays part in that too. And obviously the most important question is how God plays a role in that.
Yeah, you bet. I grew up in Austin. I was a sports guy. I played football and baseball. I pitched in college, and unfortunately they only give you 4 years of eligibility. And so after my 4th year of eligibility, I couldn't play anymore because, true story, the Seattle Mariners called and said, we're not drafting you.
Okay.
And I should have kept that voicemail, because that was the extent of my professional career. My joke is I threw hard enough to become an educator, but the only service I could provide someone was, okay, well, I can teach others how to pitch. and hit. And so right after college, I gave baseball lessons and I coached select baseball. And one of the select coach dads said, I want you to come help out Hyde Park baseball team. So me and two other select coaches went to Hyde Park, and they told me, just be the pitching coach. Don't even look at the hitters. Just be the pitching coach. I'm like, yes, sir. No problem. And halfway through the season, they said, do you want to be a teacher too?
Wow.
Yeah, sure. I guess. I don't know. Wait, you're going to pay me $28,000? Yeah, I'm interested. So I promise that's not how we hire anymore. We have high standards, all the things. I wouldn't have hired me in a heartbeat. But anyways, that was the door that opened, and I walked through it. And then I got a little more serious about teaching, got my teaching certification. And then a couple of years into that, same thing.
Okay.
I actually printed the Texas State University Marriage and Counseling graduate school program. I was interested in becoming a counselor.
Really?
That's what I really wanted to do. My parents got divorced a couple years prior, so it was kind of that journey of figuring out why and all those kind of things. I remember I printed it because it took up all my paper. Old school, like took up all my paper on a printer. That same week, not one but two different men, S.L. Bradley and Joe Kopech, said, hey, you should consider administration. Again, never even thought about it. And so it just kept going from there.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So what made you print out the marriage and counseling thing?
I wanted to go into that.
That's what
I
you
wanted to
wanted
go
to
back
do.
to school and
Okay.
do that graduate program. And I never forget, I was at a UT baseball game explaining, yeah, I want to be a counselor. And one of, I won't name them, said, why do you want to listen to people's problems all day? It's like, oh, that's not very encouraging. I guess I don't. So now I just listen to people's problems, in administration. But at Hyde Park, of course, is a Christian school. So at 24 years old, that's a really good place to be refined.
Yeah.
And I was around a lot of godly men and women. And that was almost 21 years ago. And so ever since then, it's just been a growth pattern. Matt Chandler says it's not up and to the right, but it's a coil. His new book, Becoming Like Jesus, it's more of a coil up and down, but it's still moving and moving forward. And so I would agree with Matt. Yeah, I would agree with Matt. It's not up and to the right. It's a coil up and down. So there's plenty of that in my story, but what a blessing it's been. But also I took a 3-year break and I served public school.
Okay.
And that was a huge growth area for me. That after 6 years at Hyde Park, I served 3 years in public school. I'm so grateful for that experience to become more of a complete educator, not just the small Christian school in Austin, but Hutto High School for 2 years as an assistant principal, and then AP in Leander at Rouse. It was great. And then I came back to Hyde Park, but serving in public school gives you a heart for all kiddos.
Yeah, I would imagine. So I have to ask you, obviously, like there's clearly a major difference between a Christian school and a public school. And I think somebody just asked a question. I would love to know what you think about the non-canonical books of the Bible. Oh, never mind. I thought it was talking about something different. We can get back to that.
Okay.
But I do want to know, like, what was the major differences in those types of settings, and what did you learn from the public school setting that you maybe could not have learned without that experience?
Yeah, differences were size. Public schools way larger, obviously. A ton of differences, but I love talking about the similarities, which is whether it's public or private, the biggest determination of whether kids are going to learn or not is about the teacher in the classroom. And both public and private, I saw and I've seen like teachers that really care. My mom was a teacher for 36 years. I have a heart for teachers. And so whether it's public or private, rich, poor, everything in between, a quality teacher is the difference maker. And it's more difficult to teach 42 kids than 16. I was the furniture guy as an assistant principal, and I had 6 rows of 6 I was responsible for. That's just a lot. So those are some challenges, but kids are kids. Cell phones a problem worldwide. I actually was in a biology classroom in Germany, and this girl's on her phone for 15 minutes. I'm like, it's literally a worldwide problem. But
Yeah.
yeah, a ton of differences. But also that was 15 years ago, and so my guess is public schools and private schools are probably even more different than similar than they were 15 years ago, as the world has just changed. I would say in the last 6 years, since 2020, that seemed like a pivotal year for all kinds of things. But I really enjoyed my time serving in Hutto and Leander.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. So, where in this story did you like? I imagine that you've always kind of loved God, but where did you really start to follow him?
When I was 3 or 4 years old, I remember running up and down the hallways of First Christian Church in Beaumont, Texas. And I was running up and down in boots, like little tiny boots. My dad still has those boots, actually.
Oh,
And
nice.
I'm currently wearing boots, different size, of course. So
Hope
my
so.
earliest memories was always, being a believer. And luckily, my parents, I grew up in a Christian home and went to church all the time, things like that. But as you know, you have to make your faith your own. And
Yeah.
so I didn't get baptized until I was 25.
Okay.
And David Sunday baptized me in his pool in July of 2007. And so that was a big moment, obviously. And ever
Yeah.
since then, it's been just like everyone listening that's our believers. Every year, there's opportunities for growth. And um, at Austin Oaks Church, what they say is, just their saying is like meet, know, follow Jesus. And so I've been on this trajectory of meeting him, but really getting to know him, and then following him. I can look back at all those, and I feel like that's a journey I'm on now. And I'm following him in ways today differently than I have in the past. But yeah, it's really all the people around me at Hyde Park and at my church have been beneficial to my growth spiritually.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I really do think that and I didn't realize this until I realized it. There's a huge difference between loving Jesus as your savior and following him. And I don't think I personally started following him until maybe 4 years ago, if I'm being really honest. And that's kind of hard for me to swallow sometimes when I think about it, because I've always considered myself very in love with Jesus, praying every day.
Yeah.
That's always been a part of my life daily. But following him is a hard thing to do sometimes. And, especially I think in, the area that you work in with children, teaching them this kind of thing, being part of that. And, as a big organization, like, I don't know, I don't have any experience with a Christian school. Like, how much of the experience is knowing God and following God?
Yeah. We at Hyde Park, we're a missional school, but a covenant staff. Missional meaning families that don't have to necessarily personally agree with our core values are welcome, but the staff, we're covenant staff. So obviously, all the teachers, administrators, and coaches are all believers, and we're a mission of Hyde Park Church. So in 1968, Bob Ed Shotwell started the school, and we teach the biblical worldview, and we are able to coach and do all of our programs through a biblical worldview. And it really does change people's lives because it's a community. And school, everyone watching this, their school was a big part of their lives, right? But
Mhm.
to have godly men and women every single day around you, because parents could tell you something, but if a teacher or a coach tells you, it's just different. And so
Sure.
not all Christian schools are the same, and none of them are perfect, but we just try to keep the main things the main things. And I feel like it's clear the difference between what the world is teaching and what Hyde Park is teaching, because in 2026, where we are, right? And so there's a narrow way, the Bible says, that leads to life, and there's a wide way that leads to destruction. And so at Hyde Park, we just try to teach that narrow way, try to say it, try to live it, try to model it. And Jennifer, it's such a blessing. We plant seeds, and sometimes we don't see the crop till way later. Their 20s, 30s that come back and be like, you know what, I might just give you a hard time, but man, I'm so glad sometimes we see the fruit right now. And yesterday I got a text from a mom that it's a sixth grade. She came in sixth grade. Now she's in seventh grade. Her first year at Hyde Park was in sixth grade. Well, she decided to get baptized. In order at her church, she said, like, why do you want to get baptized? So she typed out an email to her mom of why she wants to get baptized. And she referenced, last year I went to a Christian school and I just learned more about God and I want to give my life to him. So it's so cool to see kids' hearts change during the program, during the process. And that's what keeps you going for sure. And I can tell you, all the adults on campus, the teachers and coaches, it's a healthy place to work too, because of this Christ-centered culture that we have.
Yeah, I bet believers all over would love to work in an environment where they are constantly surrounded by other believers and followers who will, encourage them to be better and keep growing and, love them and be compassionate and give grace and all these things that Jesus teaches us. That's really, really amazing. I think you're very blessed to work in an environment like that. The story you said about the sixth grade girl reminds me of the story you shared in your message. Like, actually, I'm not a crier. It takes a lot for me to cry, but the story you shared about a boy named George really moved me. Please, if you would share the story just briefly, because it was really amazing. And
you bet. George graduated from Hyde Park a couple years ago, went to University of Georgia. He graduated from Hyde Park as a young man of faith, but his faith really took off at Georgia. And he was volunteering at the Potter's House, which I believe is a prison ministry or recovery ministry, things like that. He was on fire for the Lord, and people around him could tell. And people around him would describe George as someone that really cared about telling people about his faith, about the good news of the gospel over and over and over. And we lost George to a freak car accident. In the middle of the day, on his way to go to his friend's house for dinner. But that day, the day he passed away, we found out that he prayed that God would use his life to make a positive impact in the kingdom. He was 21 years old. And his family, his friends know without a shadow of a doubt that George was all about the Great Commission, was all about making disciples. When he was asked to change a tire, which he knew nothing about, he said, yes, I'll help you change a tire. He's underneath this car with this old man changing his tire. And his buddy was like, what could George be talking about? He was sharing the gospel to this old man underneath the car. That's just kind of what kind of guy he was. He got baptized at Hyde Park in middle school. And so, we know for a fact, he's in heaven. And, but whether you live to be 21 or 91 isn't what we all want to hear. Well done and good and faithful servant. So, we need more young people and older people and middle-aged people. We need everyone like George who lived on mission. He didn't waste his life, even at Georgia, in college. That's supposed to be the most fun time in your life, right? Well, yeah, it can be, living on mission. And so while we are mourning his loss and it's still not over completely, what a great example. And maybe we could continue to honor his life by, living the way he did.
Yeah. Thank you for restating that story. I think it's such a beautiful story. So heart-wrenching, right? But I love the fact, it's so beautiful to me, the fact that he prayed in the way that he did the day that he did go to meet Jesus. And I guarantee that, like, Jesus will work that out to where George is a light that people will remember for hopefully generations, So speaking on the Great Commission, I know you talk about that a lot, and this culture and society that we're in right now, and how hard it is to carry out, right? Now, I will say, I do think that in the last year or so, I've seen a huge kind of revival and people being more bold for Christ. And I don't know if that's just the trendy thing to do, and I hope not, but I think it's really cool. So what are your thoughts on that, and how we can
Yeah.
be, better doers of what God has asked us to do?
Yeah, I've heard some of those stats too. It's so encouraging, Bible sales and things like that. But there's still so much work to do. Barna did a survey, and they asked this group of Christians, have you heard of the Great Commission? And 51% said no. 6% said unsure. And 25% said yes, but I can't explain it. So that's about 82%. 82% of this group of Christians didn't really understand the mission that Jesus gave. And you couple that with this anxious generation, this generation of kids who are sleep deprived, addicted to their phones. The self-harm is through the roof. We've got this mental health crisis with young people, and these stats, while improving recently, right? But in general, they're not going to church as much as they used to. The younger, 18 to 30, not yet, right? Not yet, right? So hopefully last year we see this increase. But as someone in the kid business, I'm pleading with everyone. Our young people, they don't need any more information. They have all the information in the world, AI on their phone. They need more examples. They need more examples like George. They need more examples of people living on mission that taking this serious. Our young people are literally killing themselves.
Yes, they are.
And whether your motivation is Matthew 28, or whether your motivation is you don't want young people to kill themselves, and I'm being serious, they need more examples of hope. And they need to feel connected authentically, because we've never been more artificially connected, but authentically alone.
Yeah.
Which is probably why
that's so true.
4 of the last 6 years, the most interactive Bible verse is Isaiah 41:10. And there's a reason for that. So our kids need examples, and of men and women, husbands and fathers, moms, everyone living on mission, because it makes a difference.
Yeah. And I think there are so many ways that we can be a model of that, like for instance, the work I do with men, is ultimately to get them back to God's design as husbands and as fathers. And, then ultimately the wife back to God's design, the family dynamic back to God's design. And I think, that's something that's been lost for a long time, arguably like 75 years or so. How do you feel that we, in the position of any type of role model that we are to anybody, how can we do better? Like you said, no more information is needed. We just need to, is that just simply spreading the word of Christ? Is that simply showing his character in all of our interactions to the best of our ability? Like what are your thoughts there?
Let's focus on what we're for. They asked Mother Teresa to protest against Vietnam. She said, I'm not against Vietnam, I'm for peace. So we have to decide, what are we for? Certainly we're for Jesus. If you don't have Jesus, get him. If you have Jesus, share him. And so being for this relationship with Jesus, which can change your life, being for that, being for the way, the truth, and the life, be for that. And then just living that out, because it boils down to loving God and loving other people. And, being for those things, but also being for celebrating the ones that are finding success and fruit in that. There's some marriages that are worth following. There are some men worth following. There's some women worth following. What are they doing that we can share how they're being successful? Because it makes a difference. It's so easy to get negative and talk about what we don't want. I suggest let's focus on what we're for and keep it positive, because there's so many good examples in front of us. For example, social media. Social media is neutral. Technically, it's a brick. It can be either used to throw through a windshield or build a children's hospital, right? So Jennifer,
Absolutely.
What you're doing, your energy and your effort, you're using it for good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful for that. So maybe we can have some more social media as not just a negative, but let's use it for good. So that's why I'm grateful to support Reignite and all the things that you're doing.
Thank you for that. And I think on the same note, you can also fill your feed on social media, whether it's LinkedIn or
Mhm.
TikTok, or if
Right.
you're a kid, Snapchat, like,
Yeah.
it can be filled with things that you should be paying attention to. So you
Right.
can intentionally fill it with the right things as well.
Right.
So providing something that is useful and valuable to other people, but also filling your own with good examples to follow after. I think
Yeah.
that's a good thing to do.
You mentioned
So
that rabbi story. Like that's an
yes,
example of following. Like, what are we for? We're for that.
yeah. So that is something that really maybe it was besides George's story, it could have been the thing that stuck out to me the most, because I really like reflective questions. But you were talking about discipleship and
Right.
how back in that time, I don't know the years, but back in that time,
Yeah.
when
About 2,000 years ago.
yeah. So, they followed closely, whether it was Jesus or another rabbi, they literally followed physically closely to that teacher, so much so that there would be dust on them, at the end of the day, because like this, the dirt has been kicking up, right? Because they're that close. And
Right.
so your question was, how dusty are you? And that spoke to me so much.
Yeah.
So, I really like to reflect on my life in that way. So what does that question mean to you?
Well, it's convicting. It's one thing to preach it. It's another thing to live it. But I believe the word Christians used 3 times in the New Testament and disciple like 267. So it's a word that we need to pay attention to. And yeah, it's just a closeness, a nearness. And you find that in really ultimately your time. How much time are you spending in God's word and prayer? And the closer and the more you're doing that, not just to check a box, but because you want to. That's the difference between being a believer and a follower. It's like your taste buds change. It's what you are longing for changes. If you don't get your daily bread, it feels different. You feel off a little bit. And so you just want to be
True.
really, really close consistently, and also not beating yourself up if you miss a day or if you miss it, because it's supposed to find a place of rest in Him. It
Yes.
requires action. It requires discipline. It requires habits, no doubt.
Yeah.
But you know, you can get as much of Jesus as you want. You can get as
Yeah.
close as you want. However, it's important to take stock and time out and like, yeah, how dusty am I? How close am I? And even if you're close, good, get closer.
Yeah.
If you're so far away you can't see him, that's okay. Take one more step. It's all about the next step. I mean, Moses was 40 in one spot and 80 in one spot and 120 in one spot. Like, it's a long journey. I read
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago that Paul, he wrote most of the New Testament. He started one of his ministries when he was 45. That's
Wow.
so encouraging. Who's someone that is 44 years old and 50 weeks. I turned 45 in 2 weeks. I'm like, all right. Paul didn't start till he was 45. So it's never too late to
Yeah.
start.
Yeah, it's never too late to start. That is really encouraging. We have, I think our walk with God, with Jesus, is never supposed to be like there's no end game. Maybe not even when you get to heaven. I don't know. We don't know that. But, the earthly end game would be to get to heaven and have him say that we've done such an awesome job, and he knows us and he sees us and he loves us, right? But I think you can't ever, yeah, to your point, get too close to Jesus. You just want more and more. And, one of the things that I started doing this year was, reading the whole Bible in a year. And I've never actually done that before, chronologically without a break. And, I've been in the Word. I've obviously know scripture, but to actually take the time for about an hour every morning and study
Mhm.
and really see what he has for me today, it has been something that I look forward to. Maybe at the very beginning, it became let's check the box, but then it quickly becomes life-giving, and this is my daily bread, and this is something that I can't do without, because I am not like I don't feel like myself without it anymore. And I
Yeah.
think that's what the word does. And I think praying is really good. Resting and being, quiet with him is really, really good. But if you don't take time to be in the word, then you don't know him fully because everything about his character and everything that he says is right there.
Yeah. Amen. The Bible it's alive and it's active. It doesn't return void, and it's what a gift. And also imagine like reading scripture, but then also think if you're praying, like God is with you too. Jesus is with you too, and so if you're in this community, if you will. And another way that if you know that if you're how dusty you are, back to that, it's how many other people are growing in their faith because of you. This idea of multiplication, I think the essence of making disciples is that other people, right, will continue to learn and grow. And so, yes, get close to Jesus so that other people can get closer to Jesus. It's this multiplication idea.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between discipleship and disciple making. And I'm still learning the differences, but that's been helpful to me. Like, okay, it's more than just a holy huddle. It's more than just believers smiling and nodding about how awesome God is. Making disciples means they weren't disciples before they were made. And so we got to get out there and help others meet, know, and follow Jesus, not just confirm, what we know. That's important too. We have to continue to do that. But who else is following Jesus? Because like George example, just told him your story, told him the good news.
Yeah. Yeah. So then maybe the second question to that is, how dusty are you making other people?
Exactly, Jennifer.
Yeah, that's really cool. I truly love that. So shifting gears just a tad while we have a little bit of time left, what has your life, you're a dad, you're a husband. Tell me about that side. Like, what have you learned, about yourself as being a member of your family, being a husband, being a father? What are your, key kind of takeaways there? And how have you grown, like, from where you started?
Yeah, married Heather, my best friend. She's a retired paramedic.
That's very cool.
I married a crazy person. No.
Does that make someone
when we
crazy?
first started dating, she just became a paramedic. And at my previous church, we were doing some community outreach deal. She had a 24-hour shift, hot, all the things, came straight from a 24-hour shift to this outreach thing we're doing. And that's when she got my attention. She's a beautiful person. But when I saw her heart to serve in that, I was like, yep. I think that was May and we were engaged in November. So, so fortunate. It's also fortunate to have a paramedic, a retired one, when you have 3 boys. So I've got an 8th grader, a 6th grader, and a 4th grader. So I literally have 911 at the house, which is helpful.
That's awesome.
And on Heather's 40th birthday, I was able to baptize all 3 of my boys. Grateful for that opportunity. So that's kind of where we're at. They got baptized at Austin Oaks Church. So thankful for that church community. We're now members of Hyde Park Church, and we're excited for that journey ahead. But thankfully, it made clear to me that my boys at some point are going to not be as attached to mom and really watch what dad's doing.
Yeah.
And I was able to understand the importance of, yes, my words. I can tell my kids a lot. I can tell my boys a lot. I know the right thing to say to them. But Jennifer, how often have they seen me when they wake up in the morning, they come in the living room? How often have they seen me with my Bible open and my quiet time? Right? Them seeing that matters. How I serve the church, how I and when I mess up, which is every single day.
Yeah.
How I apologize to their mom, apologize to them, which I'm not great at. Could you help me with that? I need to get better at apologizing to my wife and my kiddos. I'm the most humble guy I know, Jennifer. Just kidding. That's a joke. But my point is, like, to be yourself and to be authentic and to mess up and
sure
and just be real and to, again, just model because I've had that model for me too. And, you know, my boys know how much I love them, but they know that what I want for them more than anything else isn't straight A's. It's not to be on the A team. It's not athletic accomplishments. It's for them to have their own personal relationship with Jesus Christ. They know how important that is to me. And every single day, there's opportunity just to emphasize that. Pete Carroll says coaching is emphasis. So what are we emphasizing? Because at some point, when they turn 18 years old and they go off to college, you know, earmuffs, moms, but like they're going to be, they're supposed to move on.
Yeah.
And there's only so many summers left.
It's so sad.
There's only so many years left. And you can kind of hear the sense of urgency in my voice that there's a time of discipleship now. And then after they graduate high school, for sure. And so I just think being intentional, isn't that the word for anything? If you want to be the best at anything or good at anything, it's intentional. It's not going to just happen. And the bottom line is, if it's really not that important to you, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So how do you get to where it's really important to you? It's like, well, the gospel changes your heart to the extent where, oh my goodness, not only do I want my friends to know about this and strangers to know about this, but I want my family to know about this more than anybody else, because I love them more than anybody else. And I want them to know that the freedom that they are looking for is only in Jesus. It's not in the world. It's not in success. I can keep going for about 3 more hours. So just tell your audience to hold on. But like, you can tell I'm passionate about this subject. And so, yeah, just modeling it every day. But it's not because of like my willpower. It's the Holy Spirit. It's because this is important to me that it comes out. And by God's grace, he's given me this conviction just to tell people the truth, especially young people at Hyde Park, my own kids. The truth is, the way of the world is not as great as the way of Jesus. Pick Jesus.
Right. And I think with kids especially, that is such a tough job in today's world, because we do have social media, and I know that we just talked about how it can be used for good, but typically for teens especially, it's not going to be used for good, whether it's by accident or purposefully. Like, there's lots of, you are expected to be a certain way, look a certain way, follow certain things, dress a certain way, like certain things, follow this crowd to be known and relevant. Like, it's so difficult in today's culture to separate, as a child, I think, the worldly path from the path of Jesus. It's so tough. And I think, one of the things that I've learned with especially my 17-year-old girl is, I think the character, showing Jesus's character matters the most to, I think first of all, God has created us all so differently, and certain things speak to different people. And me, I've been really trying to show her that she has value and that she's so loved, and, be the example that I didn't maybe necessarily set when she was very, very, very little. Because I was an insecure person who didn't know my own identity at the time. And that's what she kind of modeled after. And so I'm really trying to, catch up. And I think we all have to see, like, one of the things I love about when Jesus starts his Sermon on the Mount is that he goes up and he sees the people. He sees like everything inside of them.
Yeah.
Right. And I like to think about that a lot, because we have to see people. We have to see like each individual child. We have to see each individual person that maybe doesn't know Jesus, and how we can speak to them too.
That's right. I agree. And living on mission means you see people the way Jesus does, for sure. And while as parents, there's this window of time where they're with us, when they are sent out, whether it's boys or girls, everyone has their own journey, and spiritual growth and sanctification takes time and suffering. We only grow over time and through suffering.
Yeah.
And our kids are going to have their own journeys. but it's a slow growth. I love the tree analogies, right? Where
Yeah.
you don't ever see a tree grow. But imagine if there's a tree in your yard, you went away for a couple of years, it came back. It's like, oh my gosh, it's grown so much, but you don't see it day to day, but it's happening. And that's just how God designed it. It takes a long time. Like I feel like I'm just starting and I'm about to turn 45. It's like, oh my gosh, right? I can't wait for the next 20 years and the next 20 years,
Yeah.
God willing, but it takes a long time. So we can give ourselves a break, that we're not supposed to have it all figured out. I certainly don't.
Yeah.
And especially with our kids and our loved ones, it's time and suffering. And so suffering is how we grow. So anxious generation, we're protecting them too much. We're not letting them grow. We're bubble wrapping them too much. You have to let them go and let them fail and let them scrape their knee. That's how they grow. And that's how it works spiritually
So
as
hard.
well. It is hard. It is hard. But
I agree,
parenting's
though.
hard. Parenting's hard. In this world, you'll have trouble. This is what we signed up for, I think.
Yes, we will have trouble. But I think, like you said, that contributes to your own story. And I think he gave us each a story that will ultimately, hopefully for as many of us as possible, lead us to him and be able to share and be able to, be sanctified in that long process as well. And, we are supposed to suffer because that gives us meaning, and also the desire to know him, and also the realization that we cannot do this life without him. We have to depend on him.
Yeah.
And so,
and thank God Jesus suffered for us. Otherwise we wouldn't be free.
Right. Thank God. That's just amazing. Well, I feel like we could keep talking about this for hours.
Right.
What, in closing, kind of, I'm going to, if it's okay with you, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. I'm totally fine if I can't, but I would like to post maybe a link to that message that you did give a couple weeks ago so people can see it if they want to.
Post it. Yeah, go ahead and post it.
Yeah, because it was so amazing. And do you have any last, you've given so many nuggets and so many wonderful pieces of advice and wisdom, but do you have any kind of generalized takeaway for us as we close, like whether it's for parents, whether it's for kids listening, whether it's for just people in general, like if every single thing that you have done were to be taken away, like to where on earth we couldn't find it anymore because you're with Jesus, like what would you want us to know?
Oh man.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, that you're wanted and you're accepted, and that you matter, and that you're loved, and that it's going to be okay, and that you can rest not in the things of this world, but you can rest in the truth that Jesus really is who he says he is, and that he loves you so much, and he knows everything about you and still loves you so much. And that if you desire peace of mind, if you desire freedom, it's available to you.
That's wonderful. Amen. Amen. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining me on this wonderful conversation. I hate to call it a podcast, but thank you so much. I think, I hope that everybody listening was able to take away something really amazing. I know I did. Thank you. What is next for you?
I'm going to talk to my CFO about next year's budget. No, no, we're in the rhythm of, we just started school. And so Heather and I we're just Uber drivers, I guess, for our kids for the next event. But no, what's next for us is, what's next I've been thinking about in 2 weeks. I don't know if this is evergreen, but September 11th, it's the 25th anniversary. So I'm thinking about 25 years ago, how our lives changed. So I'm actually going to write a little blurb about that.
Okay.
Anyways, kind of a random what's next, but yeah, I just am so grateful to be a part of your podcast, your show, Jennifer. I just pray that God continues to bless you and to give you favor, so you continue telling men and women the good news about Jesus and just how to take that next step in their own lives, because the work you do matters, Jennifer. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I would say the same thing to you. Thank you for everything you do for all of the children who need us and need Jesus. And I don't know if anybody is in the Austin area and is interested, how can they find you?
Yeah. Google me on Hyde Park, I guess. If you want my cell phone, ask Jennifer for it. I'm happy to give it to you. If anybody's watching and wants to have coffee, seriously, I'd love to have coffee and catch up. I'd love to hear your story. And yeah, me and my wife are in Northwest Austin, and we love serving this community. But I'm happy to connect with any of your listeners if they would like to do that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That's amazing. Well, God bless you. Thank you for everything that you've shared. Thank you for being who you are and such an example for all the children that you serve. And thank you guys all for joining. I will go back and attend to all these comments. I can't wait to read them. Thank you so much for chiming in, and we will see you soon. Thanks and God bless.